Listening tips. Most people who speak a second language have a relatively higher level of difficulty when trying to speak and listen than when trying to read and write, possibly because text gives us more time to think, and speaking requires us to talk right away and we need to be a little more spontaneous. All virtual translators are basically structured in writing, and nowadays it can be very tempting to use these tools as a source of help for those who have not yet mastered a language. In speaking, on the other hand, we don't have as many things to help us, and we depend much more on our own abilities. Of course, it's much easier to let the machines do all the talking for us. This can be really bad for learning because these translators tend to be imperfect, and also because we lose the motivation to learn on our own. Speaking and listening in another language, even in the business environment, is not as hard as it seems. There are strategies that you can take to improve how you do it in corporate situations, and no, you won't end up crying in desperation. This is exactly what we are covering in the next sections, starting with the process of listening, and then moving on to speaking, which is what requires a little more effort on our part. Improve your listening. The first step to a successful conversation is to listen and understand who is speaking to us. We often attend meetings, workshops, and conferences, and we need to put all our attention on what is being said. Since our heads are programmed to think in our native language, this can be especially difficult when we need to sit down for hours and listen to someone talk non-stop. But there are ways to make the whole thing easier. We will list them in the following sections. Listening tip number 1: ignore distractions. The workplace is not like a school setting. No one is going to tell you to turn off your phone or stop you from leaving the room to use the restroom. You are in complete control of what you choose to listen to, when you listen to it, and how you assimilate everything you hear. That's why it's essential to completely eliminate any distraction that could affect your attention. Of course, the biggest and most important distraction is your phone, but you also need to be careful with your thoughts. Rehearsing what you are going to say in your head or being too worried about what you need to get done throughout the day can do more harm than good. You end up not paying enough attention to your colleagues' ideas and thus disconnecting yourself from the discussion. When you can't hear what the other person is saying, there is no point in spending so much time preparing your speech. Listening tip number 2: show others that you are listening. No one can get inside your head to know whether or not you are distracted. Again, the workplace is not a school, so you won't be asked to pay attention. You have to make sure to show others that you are 100% present. You can do this with a few simple gestures, such as nodding every now and then or smiling whenever it's suitable. If you feel particularly confident, you can even respond with a few short words, such as "uh-huh, I see," and "yes." Listening tip number 3: don't interrupt. It's normal to be a little anxious about sharing your ideas, and this anxiety naturally increases when speaking in a language that is not our native tongue. Sometimes, there is a feeling that if something is not spoken as soon as the thought comes to mind, that idea will be lost and our participation in the conversation will be limited. As valid as this feeling may be, interrupting someone who is speaking is not the best solution. It will only frustrate the speaker and may even make him/her angry. Just as we like to conclude our thoughts before making room for others to respond, so do our colleagues. Allow them to finish their ideas before making your point. This helps you take in what has been said better, and it gives you more tools to respond more effectively.